What is up, Buck? How y'all doing? As you can see, I started this video in the middle of a project. We started this project on a live stream. If you haven't checked that out, I'll find some way to make that available to you. We tried out our first live stream in preparation of a live stream at the U-Pole. We wanted to get it down. Anyway, what we're doing today is replacing CV axles on a Dana 30. This is my 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ. I'm not going to do a full how-to because it's relatively easy and there's a million videos. You take the brakes off, you take the freaking wheel bearing off. If you're a gorilla like me, you break one of the freaking wheel bearing bolts. But there's a couple other little hints in here that I would like to give you all. What you got to understand now, I usually pull the diff cover when I do these because there's an inner seal in there, and when you're taking it out and putting it in, there's an opportunity to mess it up. I was talking to Eric and he's like, no man, you're making too much work for yourself. So I do know of another way to do it, it's the blind method. You're just gonna pull it out straight, but you can do a few things to make sure that you're not risking it. One thing is you take a screwdriver and you put it in the axle tube, and you're giving the axle shaft something to ride on so that it doesn't come out of the the seal there and just fall straight down, giving it an opportunity to damage the seal. And more importantly, when you're heading back in, you don't have to try to balance the entire axle shaft on this side. So we're going to try to get this guy out right now using my little screwdriver method. Give it something to support it. Oh my god, this CV axle is so bad. You guys aren't going to believe it when you see it. Alright. Now, there we go. And there we are. Wow, this thing's terrible. Alright. Now, able to slide it right out. The axle shaft's actually holding my screwdriver now. And I can be at least relatively confident that we didn't mess anything up. Let's take this over to a bench and look at just how, oh man, this thing's been making a lot of noise while turning, and now it's pretty obvious why. Let's get this on a bench. Alrighty, the bench still has all the crap from the live stream on it, so how about just a chair here? Now, as you can see, my CV boot ripped. All the grease was able to evacuate, and now there is excessive play. Let's see if you can hear it. That's between the little balls and the little cage in there. So that was giving me a clicking when I was turning. Probably a little bit of slop in the driveline there. Definitely had to be replaced. Let's grab the new one and put that bad boy in. I ordered the finest that Rock Auto had to offer. A good note, it's different CV axles if you do or do not have Verilok. Verilok is the stock limited slip differential that they put in some WJs. If you have an open differential, you need a different CV. I actually have an open differential sitting out behind the house with brand new CVs in it that I couldn't use because this Jeep has Verilok. Now, any good replacement axle shaft is going to come with a new nut. We'll take that off and put it aside. You don't have to worry about ABS, no ABS with WJs. WJs all had ABS. Now you can see this CV is able to hold its position. That's how it should be. That other one, that thing was really wilding. I did get both sides. I'm only going to do this side today, and then tomorrow I'll probably do the other side. Additionally, something I highly recommend, whenever you're taking the wheel bearing off, just get a new one. They're not super expensive. You usually have to beat them up to get the new one on. Just get yourself a new one. Gives you a lot of good peace of mind. Now, I like to, where'd I put it? I like to put a little bit of grease on this end. This has a little bit of schmoo on it we're going to clean off. This is going into your differential. Treat it accordingly. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on there. Just a bit. Nothing crazy. Alright, we're going to call that good. Now, the screwdriver is now even more important because you don't want this dragging along the dirty axle shaft. So, get your screwdriver in place. This is awesome if you have a buddy. I obviously do not today. So, we're just gonna go for it, yeah? Get your screwdriver in place. Alrighty. Now, okay, there we go. And at a certain point, it will seal in. You'll know you're in your side gears if you can't move it. That's another trick I almost forgot to mention. When you're pulling an axle nut off of a four-wheel drive WJ, or pretty much any Jeep, do yourself a favor. Put it in 4 low and leave one tire on the ground. What that's going to do is lock the front and rear axles together, and since your drive shaft is then connected and locked to the rear wheels, and your other tire's on the ground and can't move, this one cannot move either, and then you can pull your axle nut off with just a breaker bar instead of having to go and use your impact. Now, I know most of you have an impact, so that's not a problem. I do not, though. So that little trick is means a lot to me. What we're going to do now is take some very light sandpaper and just clean up the hub here where the wheel bearing is going to mate up. And then we're going to put the wheel bearing on and we're freaking good as gold. All right, here goes some old 320. We're just going to try to get some of the rust off and crap from the old wheel bearing. Alrighty, now we're going to do our future selves a favor, and we're going to put just the littlest amount of anti-seize on this wheel bearing, because if I ever have to take this off again, I want it to just slide off instead of being a whole process. That's the thing. That's why I say you usually have to just buy a new one, because you beat up the old one so bad trying to get it off that now it's loose in places it ought not be loose. So just the littlest bit. You don't have to go crazy here, but your future self will thank you if in a month you have to take this off for something else. A little bit over here, obviously some inside the threads so that you don't break it like I did. Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Now we're gonna make sure our splines are clean. And just for good measure, since we're out here greasing, might as well grease these splines just a little bit. That's gonna slide right on there. Oh boy. And beautiful. We're gonna line up the two. Actually, I'm gonna take these over the wire wheel and knock some of that rust off of these real quick. Much better, am I right? All right, now you guessed it, we're going to grease these with a little anti-seize, and we're gonna jam them on in there. And then I'm gonna go out back in the rain and wrestle with a boat anchor to get my third one, but you guys don't need to see that part. We'll just do this part here. Now you're likely gonna notice that this, you can't get it all in on your own by hand. You're gonna have to use the threads of the bolts to pull it in. Do it slowly and evenly so that you don't get it in there cockeyed and bend something or stretch something. To that end, I'm gonna have to go and wrestle and get that third bolt before I can finish this up, so I'll be right back. Alrighty, for anybody who's ever asked me why I hold on to rusty old crap like a differential I know I'm never gonna use again, this is why. Today would have been a nightmare if I didn't have that thing back out there. I gotta go out to the store. Maybe a nightmare is a little melodramatic, but it would have been a pain. Instead, I don't even have to leave the house, and I was only inconvenienced a matter of a few minutes. So we're gonna get this third one in there to make sure we're pulling it all in even. So get that one snug, then get the one directly across from it snug. Then get the top one snug, then get them a little more than snug. Oh, then I'd say we're pretty good. I do not torque these, I just give them 2 solid grunts, and I've never had a problem. This is additionally going to be held down by the axle nut, which I do torque. Axle nuts are one of the only things I do torque. That's really your fail-safe there. Oh goodness, these aren't going anywhere. You get them nice and snug. If you're new to working on a vehicle, it's a good thing to torque things because you don't yet have a feel for when something may or may not be as tight as it should. I've done more Dana 30 wheel bearings in my life than I can count. I know when they're good. Now I got one more trick for you guys, and this one is a lifesaver. Let me get these tightened up. Okay. This one will really save your day. Now, the tie rods on this need to be changed. That's not something I'm doing today. But to get this off, I had to remove the tie rod from here. Now, if anybody has ever dealt with slightly worn out tie rods before, you know when you take the castle nut off and go to put it back on, when you're trying to tighten it, it usually spins the tie rod inside. And you can't tighten it, and then you're screwed. You have to get a new tie rod. I have a trick to fix that. So, got this tie rod, we want to reuse it. We thread our castle nut on there. Oh boy. And we start to tighten it. And all's well. And then, can you see that? The whole nut is now turning inside of there. There's no way I can tighten this. I can't grab it from below. What do? Grab yourself a floor jack and jack up on the bottom of the tie rod. What this is going to do is cram that tapered rod up into the knuckle here. Really, really get it going there. And you're going to find that now you're able to tighten it without it spinning. See that? And at a certain point, it gets so tight you don't even need the jack anymore. That has saved me many times. I just don't want to do tie rods today. I know they're a little worn out, but I don't have time for it. So now I don't need to do them today. That guy's nice and tight. This trick works for taking them off as well. Sometimes these threads up here are so rusted or boogered up, and the tie rod itself is so worn out that it just wants to spin, and then you got to get in here with a grinder or something. No, man. Just get a little jack under there. You can do it with a scissor jack even. It doesn't have to be a big guy like this. Just something to get some pressure on there. Alrighty, now I do not have a new cotter pin. I do have a 4D common nail. Like I said, these are going to be replaced again soon. This is going to do just fine. The trick, or I think, my opinion on it, is if you're going to use a nail as a cotter pin, don't do it on something like the axle nut, but make sure you bend both sides. Don't count on the head to retain it on one side. Alright, so this is what I got. This is what we're going to do. Bend that side down, jam it in there, bend this side down. I mean, it's good enough, man. It's going to get us down the road. People take themselves way too seriously sometimes. Alright, let's get axle nut on. When you're putting this axle nut back together, make sure you get the washer on there first, then your nut. As previously stated, this is one thing that I always torque down. So we're going to set our torque wrench, dial her in, 36 mil. Get that guy to where she ought to be. And, oh, I forgot I took the other wheel off the ground. I was like, what the heck's going on here? All right. Now, as previously stated, if you have your transfer case locked in 4 low and you have all wheels on the ground except for this one, this is no problem. There we go. And just to be sure, beautiful. All right, your next step is very important. It's the fail-safe for the axle nut. You've got this weird little spring that I know many people throw away. Do not throw it away. It goes inside of this weird looking thing. This essentially makes this a castle nut so that you can put a cotter pin on it. You want to get it so that you've got it lined up with a space right there. We're going to reuse this cotter pin because there was nothing wrong with it. We're going to take our engineer's pliers here. A viewer sent us these. They're crazy. I guess they're called engineer's pliers. They've got all different little cutouts, super strong little grips. They're the best pliers to have around. Oh man. They come straight from the land of drifting, Japan. The box was all in Japanese and all that. Alrighty. That right there, brand new CV, brand new wheel burn. This Jeep will be good as new. I just replaced the brakes not too long ago, so I'm putting the old brake stuff back on, but like I said, this wasn't a how-to. This was just some tips and tricks, maybe a little bit of hackery, but what are you gonna do? Life's more fun with a little bit of hackery, all right? This nail ain't going nowhere, you're fine. You don't need a new cotter pin. Look at that. Hammered right to the size, beautiful. Okay, so if you got any questions, by all means, let me link down there in the squawk boxes. I don't think there's too much else to say. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.